on because we have been investigating what has been happening in the United Kingdom over these last few weeks. Times now brings clear evidence of how the UK hate attacks on temples and houses of Hindus were pre-planned and much, much bigger than we can ever imagine. This was no reaction to a cricket match, but a call to coordinated murder. Today, we get you a series of messages that were exchanged and circulated by Islamists on social media, which made their plans crystal clear. The reason we are putting these messages out tonight, viewers, is not to promote any hate, etc., but it's just to correct the narrative. The narrative has been that these attacks on Hindus were brought on by Hindus themselves. Why? Because Hindutva elements of the BJP and the RSS have set up shop in the United Kingdom, and they are upsetting community relations. And the price is being paid there by Hindus who don't believe in the RSS or the BJP. Now, viewers, if these chilling messages are to be believed, the plan had nothing to do with Hindutva. And we've taken this long to put these messages out because we have done some back-end work, viewers. We have corroborated, we have spoken to locals, we have spoken to researchers, and they have confirmed that these messages were indeed put out. We have even spoken to police authorities, and they have confirmed it too. And a lot of them, viewers, are completely unprovoked. And therefore, today, we are going to go straight across to Mr. Bob Blackman, who, viewers, is a member of Parliament, no less, in the United Kingdom, and he raised this entire issue in the House of Commons, if I'm not mistaken. Mr. Blackman, thank you very much for speaking to me. You have written also to the Right Honourable Suella Braverman, KCMP, the Secretary of State for the Home Office, and you have brought to her attention these very disturbing findings. Now, what makes you convinced of the fact that these were attacks against one community and not necessarily connected to any game of cricket?
Well, namaskar to you, and a pleasure to join you live. You're quite right. I've raised the fundamental issues yesterday we have questions on business to be transacted in the House, and I asked for a debate or a statement from the Home Secretary about what had gone on in Leicester and in Birmingham, in Smethwick, the previous night. I'm particularly concerned because, as all of your viewers will know, we will be celebrating Navratri from the start of next week. We have Diwali and Hindu New Year coming up. In the UK, Navratri is celebrated by groups of people going to often school halls or community centres to combat to combine the dancing and the celebrations of Navratri. They have no security arrangements for them. And obviously on Diwali, it's a great celebration for the Hindu, Sikhs and Jain community. And Hindu New Year the following day, I predict we'll see 1 million people plus visit temples all over the United Kingdom. So this is a very serious issue in terms of security and the rise in, I'm afraid, attacks on peaceful Hindus. I do think the situation in Leicester is unique. From what I've heard, and I'm not a Leicester MP, I'm a London MP, but from what I've heard, the troubles have all been caused by people coming in from outside the area. Hindus, Sikhs, Muslims live side by side in Leicester and have done for a very long time. And there's occasional tensions, as there always are, but essentially everyone gets on. And there have been no incidents of real problems between the two communities, in particular in Leicester up until now. But there were attacks. Obviously, one of the things that we've had is the very sad death of Queen Elizabeth II. So we've been in a period of national mourning, and we've tended to avoid speaking out about these subjects but the very weekend before the funeral, a lot of these attacks took place. We did see people being injured. We saw attacks on temples. We saw flags being burnt, and an attempt in Smethwick just the other night of a mob trying to storm the temple and really root out the people that were there for their normal celebrations. A lot of this is driven by, I'm afraid, outside elements that have been radicalized, and a lot of also has been driven by incorrect messages on social media. People have put about stories that mosques have been attacked and so on, and the police have had to put up social media messages to say there is no truth in these statements. Please do not believe them. It's a deliberate attempt by a particular section of the community to stir up trouble and cause problems between different religions. It's extremely regrettable. What we need to do is to reduce that tension between the communities, isolate this particular small radicalized section of the community, and make sure they don't cause any trouble. I'm told the police made 46 arrests in Leicester. None of them were Hindus. And that tells you, I think, exactly what has gone on there and who has been attacked. I do know that there's a real serious fear at the moment, obviously, as I've said, with Navratri and Diwali coming up, amongst the Hindu community in the UK. So I've been asking our new Home Secretary and new Policing Minister to give reassuring messages to make sure we don't want police to be standing outside every single community centre.
True.
That would be terrible. But actually making sure that the police give reassurance, that they can say they're on hand if there is any trouble, and they use their intelligence, they gather, that if any trouble is brewing, then they act to prevent it happening. There was an incident, indeed, in Leicester, I believe, just a night or so ago, where the police had issued literally a banning order. And so anyone that was from outside the area wasn't allowed to go anywhere near the temples. Groups gathered, and the police literally said to them, what are you doing here? You're not coming to the temple. What are you doing here? Justify why you're here, and making them disperse. The same thing, I think, has happened in Nottingham. So across the country, action is being taken. And what I've sought to do is to make sure that our leading politicians, our new Home Secretary and other ministers, are making sure we're giving the community the reassuring messages that we need to say it's perfectly safe for British Hindus, who are the most law-abiding citizens we have, to go about their law-abiding business and celebrating their religion. And I look forward to joining many groups over the next week or so for Navratri, and indeed, of course, Diwali, and for the celebration of Hindu New Year. Well, it's something I've done for 30-odd years, and I will continue to do so.
Well, let's hope that, Mr. Blackman, this is the end of the sordid chapter. I dare say, though, that may not actually transpire, because it appears to me that, unlike you, who's quite forthcoming and has acknowledged the issue for what it is, a large number of your political contemporaries don't seem to be as forthright. And as they always say, light is the best antiseptic. I leave it at that, Mr. Blackman. Thank you for...
Silence on these issues is acquiescence. I'm not prepared to be silent on behalf of the community that I represent. We've got to speak out about this and make sure we put an end to it.
Well, Mr. Blackman, thank you very much for your candor and your reassuring messages to millions of Indians here, both Hindus and Muslims, Sikhs, etc., who have relatives who live in enclaves in Britain. Thank you very much. I hope they take back your reassuring message and the fact that they have an MP who's championing their cause and looking out for them. Thank you very much. Let's open this up, viewers. Let's open them up. And I want to go straight across to Dr. Anand Ranganathan and Suhag Shukla, Executive Director of the Hindu American Foundation. Suhag Shukla, I want to begin with you first. It's not just UK that has seen hate attacks. On a smaller more isolated level, we've seen all of this happening in the US. What connects these incidents?
I think at the heart of this is misinformation. And I really am encouraged to know that arrests were made in UK. And I wholeheartedly echo what Mr. Blackman said in terms of silence is acquiescence. And that's in the face of misinformation. When we see, well, it's twofold. You see the media as well as institutions and mechanisms in liberal democracies, especially in the United States, being used to perpetuate misinformation. And then silence in the face of these types of attacks are really presenting a skewed picture. There's not much that you can do about misinformation that's kind of getting perpetuated through WhatsApp. Certainly, there's more that can be done on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. And we just don't see that sort of response in the face of anti-Hindu hatred being perpetuated there. The latest study by the Network Contagion Research Institute talks about the spikes in anti-Hindu hatred. And they've seen that institution in its study of anti-Semitism has seen a direct correlation between spikes of rhetoric on social media to on-ground violence. And so these types of things need to be taken far more seriously.
Well, Dr. Ranganathan, yes, I just have 30 or 40 seconds on the show. What do you make of the spin that has been put on this by certain motivated actors of the ecosystem here?
No, absolutely. First of all, I think Suhag is absolutely correct. The parallels between anti-Semitism and Hindu hatred are quite shocking, and they're very real, and they're spreading at an alarming pace. So someone has to do something about that. I don't know what or who. Secondly, Rahul, you also put the finger on the nub of the issue, which is that, believe it or not, even though the people who were shouting deaths to RSS or Hindutva or BJP, were maybe Pakistani Muslims, the intellectual thrust for this is being supplied from India. India is the core of Hindu misia and Hindu hatred. We saw this during the anti-CA protests. We've seen it ever since. What happens is that you have one-sided selectivity being propagated that, there is genocide of Muslims happening in India under the BJP and RSS and all that stuff is going on for 8 years. And the people, in the UK and abroad, they may be Pakistanis or they may be Muslims from other countries. They take that to be the gospel truth. So the core is India, and someone has to address what is happening right now, Hindu hatred in India.
Well, we leave it at this, viewers. Many perspectives. Tomorrow we'll investigate this further. Do tune in at the same time. I leave it at that.